Good morning, Metalheads Internet. Welcome to a new episode of the Metal fucking Meltdown. And today we are looking at the official soundtrack to The Dirt, the long-awaited biopic from the infamous Mötley Crüe. You know, I remember when this band was supposed to have retired. I was even at one of their final shows here in Toronto. And they made a big deal out of it, like, this is the end of Mötley Crüe. They released a song called All Bad Things Must End. Like, this is it. There's no more Mötley Crüe ever after this. And now not even a decade passes, and there's a new album, and a fucking Bohemian Rhapsody-sized biopic exclusively on Netflix, and they're doing a huge press tour across the United States. I mean, granted, musicians do this shit all the time. I mean, Ozzy Osbourne officially retired in '95, and then he retired with Black Sabbath a couple of years ago, and now he's on his final solo tour, despite the fact that it's been extended throughout the rest of the year, and he's still talking about maybe there's still a solo album on the way. But it's a little bit more jarring and uncomfortable in the case of Mötley Crüe because of how inherently dated they are. I mean, 80s glam metal has not aged well one fucking bit. I got a soft spot for the genre. In fact, Mötley Crüe is kind of a gateway band for me, but there's no denying just how crude and stupid and misogynistic the band was in their heyday, especially in a post-Me Too world. I just don't see a way in which Mötley Crüe exists in the year 2019, let alone a way that they could release a fucking movie highlighting all of their stupidity and debauchery. But to be fair, we're not here to talk about the movie. Not yet. That comes later. Right now, we're talking about the official soundtrack, which I was led to believe was going to be the first full studio album from Mötley Crüe in some time. Clearly, though, I did not do my research on that part, because that is not the case, which is kind of an immediate problem with the Dirt album. You know, a lot of fans have been really hungry for new material for a while, especially since Mötley Crüe released a bunch of singles during their final tour, Sex and All Bad Things Must End. Not saying I want a full studio album, but I can understand why some people would want it. Mötley Crüe have been teasing us about new music for a very long time, and it does feel like a bit of a waste that we're only getting 4 new songs, one of which is a cover, and one of which has already been widely available for about a month now, so really it's only 2 new songs. The rest of the album is a greatest hits record, and that's not inherently a bad thing. In fact, I've kind of been looking for a half-decent Mötley Crüe greatest hits record for a while. Not gonna lie, I even pre-ordered this record because, you know what? Kickstart My Heart's a fucking jam, and the Dr. Feelgood album sucks. So this is like the next best thing. But again, I can still understand some people being upset, especially when it wouldn't take much just to make this a bigger album. Like, you could have done this in the style of the Michael Jackson record History from the mid-90s, where one half was new material and one half was like a greatest hits album. It would actually be very easy to do. You know, you get the 4 songs here, you add the 2 that Mötley Crüe released during their final tour, Sex and All Good Things Must End, and maybe you just record a couple other tracks, or you dig up some old unreleased tracks, you can do some more covers. I don't know. It seems to me like it would have been almost effortless to expand this into a bigger album for fans. That being said, people tend to eat greatest hits albums right the fuck up, so who knows? Like, I think the best-selling album of all time right now is like an Eagles greatest hits album, so maybe I'm over-exaggerating on that end. And as far as this greatest hits collection goes, I mean, it really is their greatest hits. I can't think of anything missing. I would maybe just rearrange the general track order on this, and that's maybe about it. That's really all I have to say on that end. So enough about that. Let's move on to the important shit. The new material. The stuff that's been getting the most talk as of late. Like, this is the shit that got Mötley Crüe to officially reunite, get back in the studio, and get back with producer Bob Rock, of all people, as well. This is the man who produced their massive record Dr. Feelgood, and later went on to produce even bigger records for Metallica. So what did Mötley Crüe and mega producer Bob Rock come up with? Well, they came up with 4 of the lamest fucking white trash dad rock songs you may have ever heard. I'm sure that sounds pretty disappointing for some of you, but let's be honest, is it really that big of a shocker? Because it's not like Mötley Crüe have actually released anything of worth since Dr. Feelgood. Does anyone even remember Generation Swine or New Tattoo? Because I don't. I only remember the titles. I would say the best track of them all is the title track itself, The Dirt, which was also the lead single for this entire album. It's got a sturdy hard rock rhythm, everyone sounds pretty good, the guitars have a nice metallic sneer to them. It's pretty simple, it's pretty basic, especially the chorus, but it's not bad. It's a little weird having Machine Gun Kelly doing like a rap on this track, but at the very least it doesn't go into Limp Bizkit levels of cringeworthiness. Really the only other thing that stands out to me in this track is just how much the lead chorus from this song sounds nearly identical to Anthrax's Breathing Lightning. Then there's the other two songs, Ride with the Devil and Crash and Burn, which weirdly feel like a weird fusion of like Hinder and Nickelback. Like, they're really grungy and dirty, and they've got a weird southern flavor to them, particularly Ride with the Devil. Like, honestly, every time I hear that main riff, I can picture like a bunch of dumb blondes in like a country bar wearing cowboy hats, they're at a fucking strip pole, and the audience is filled with like these fat biker dudes and country motherfuckers. It's a very weird aesthetic, one that directly clashes with everything Mötley Crüe have set up throughout the course of their entire career. It's not to mention both these songs so heavily cater to the aging Mötley Crüe fan base, with lyrics about remembering the old days and ride your motorcycle and, man, remember when we were young and we used to party, we used to do cocaine, man. Like, okay, we get it, you're old and you used to party, congratulations. Do you want a fucking medal? Both these songs also reference the main title of this album quite a lot. In fact, Ride with the Devil directly lifts a lyric from the title track, The Dirt, and Crash and Burn even has this weird little nu metal kind of sequence where there's this weird jaded guitar and deep vocals, and some guy goes, "You gotta get face down into the dirt." Like, we get it. The name of the album is The Dirt. That doesn't mean you have to keep repeating it. Fun drinking game, though. Listen to these songs and take a shot every time you hear somebody say The Dirt. And that brings us to the final track, which has already received a lot of press. I feel like I don't need to talk about it, but we're already here, so we may as well. Let's talk about Like a Virgin, the Madonna cover. This song has been out for, what, maybe a week tops, and it's already being regarded as maybe the worst cover song of all fucking time. Revolver magazine even did a fan poll of the worst cover songs of all time, and this managed to make it to #1, above some truly disgusting covers, including the dreadfully over-the-top and over-dramatic Sound of Silence from Disturbed. And I 100% agree. It is a gross, garish, and just kind of uncomfortable song. Musically, it's really over-processed, especially Vince Neil. I mean, he's consistently the worst thing on these new songs, but here in particular, he delivers maybe one of the worst vocal performances of his career. He butchers that main chorus, too. He sounds like a pig about to be fucking slaughtered and crying for help. And then there's just the fact that Mötley Crüe somehow decided that conceptually this was a good idea. Why would you think that this was a good idea? Because what seemed playful and sexually innocent coming from 25-year-old Madonna sounds creepy and perverse and just plain uncomfortable coming from a group of 50-year-old sexagenarian men. Especially these sexagenarian men. I mean, we're talking about a group of guys that used to stick their dick in egg salad to, and I quote directly here, get the smell of other girls off of them as they were trading women. We're talking about a group of guys who recently admitted that they may have even raped a girl at one point in the 1980s. We're talking about a guy like Tommy Lee, who made the most infamous sex tape of all time and punched his girlfriend square in the face in the 80s. It baffles me that no one in this band thought, in a post-Me Too world, that this might be a bad fucking idea. And it is without a doubt the strongest evidence for the argument of Mötley Crüe should have fucking stayed in the 80s. The final score on this kind of varies for me. I mean, as a greatest hits album, it's certainly inoffensive. It's got all the songs you want to hear. But with these original songs, it's just so fucking over the top and all over the place. I mean, The Dirt is fine, and I can even kind of briefly gel with Crash and Burn, Ride with the Devil, but then Like a Virgin comes in and just fucks it all up tremendously. I think, all things considered, I'll boil this down to maybe like a 2.5 out of 5, because even as far as greatest hits albums go, this isn't necessarily essential. Mötley Crüe has done other greatest hits albums, albums. This one perhaps contains the greatest of the greatest hits, but the point is, if you already own those other records, this is by no means an essential listen. And again, factoring in the original material and just how mixed those pieces are, it really brings down the whole fucking thing. I struggle to recommend this to a diehard Mötley Crüe fan because A, there's not many of you at this point, and B, if you are a diehard fan, you probably already have most of the albums or even one of the previous greatest hits albums, so I don't really see much of a point. Again, I personally did pre-order this record, but I'd like to point out I only did so because A, the other greatest hits albums are hard to find on vinyl, B, like I said, this is like the greatest of their greatest hits, and C, as much as I like Mötley Crüe, I really don't want to own all of their albums. I don't want to own Theater of Pain. I don't want to own Girls, Girls, Girls. I really just want to listen to like the jams, and that's it. Perhaps with that in mind, if you're like me, this is a good album to search out for. But again, if you're a diehard fan, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be fine with what you already have. And if you really want to listen to these new songs, you can just add them to a Spotify playlist or some shit. If these songs are any indication as to what a final Mötley Crüe album would have or might look like, then I really don't want to hear it. Like, ever. The promo singles released during the band's final tour were fine, but this ranges from being just okay to absolutely disgusting. And that is never a good indicator for a new album. And once again, it just strengthens the argument that perhaps Mötley Crüe should just stay in the 1980s. Perhaps they are simply a product of their time, and what they did cannot be replicated, and that's fine, but they need to stay there. 2.5 out of 5. It's the definition of a mixed bag. I don't know. Take from that what you will. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? Thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. Make sure you also follow me on Facebook at Metal Meltdown Reviews so you get even more updates fucking immediately. And you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.